Hello, everyone, and welcome to the BLIMP Podcast with Brando and Jordo. We have a special guest, Paul Treloar, with us today. How are you, Paul?
I'm great, guys. How are you?
Awesome.
Yeah, really good, really good. It's
Awesome.
awesome to have you on today, Paul. It's you bring a wealth of knowledge in business and just life in general. So it's going to be really good having a chat to you and learning about all of that and what you do. Because today's topic, I guess, was goals and visualization, and I know that that's something that you're super passionate about. Like, I always see you posting about it and doing videos and that. So can you give us a little bit of a backstory on how you got to where you are and who you are?
So it's funny when people ask that, because I don't think I have much of a story, but I guess one of those things that everybody likes to start something with a good story to create some context, but for me, plenty of ups and downs in life. I think what's important to know is that anywhere that I'm perceived to be at the moment is because I keep going. Only sort of 4 or 5 years ago, I was at a place where, a decade ago, I'd built a company and I'd made millions. 4 or 5 years ago, I'd made mistakes and dwindled it all away, and I had to rebuild. I was as poor as anyone else out there. And that's probably part of the story. So I guess from a long perspective, like most people, parents worked. I grew up, back when it was okay to be out by yourself and, be home when it's when the street lights come on, that type of thing.
Yeah.
In that era, I'm a little bit older than probably most of your guests, but I didn't finish school. I started my apprenticeship midway through sort of year 10 high school. And that was it. I was a worker, and I was a worker because I had a story that I needed to be a worker, and the way that my dad was, he was a huge influence, and tried a lot of things. I think from an early age, just had this, kind of there's got to be more type thing. It's not that I was unhappy, but I just questioned everything, and not disrespectfully, but more respectfully. Like, is that actually the way it is? Like, is that why we do these things? My wife would definitely say that I like to break rules, but I don't like to break rules. Rules have a real purpose in life, but I like to challenge them and question them, because I think a lot of the things that we're handed down to us don't have any bias for why they're there. I think we inherit a lot of stuff that's not relative. And that's why I like to question things. Are like, this is the way we've always done it, but why? Is it working? Is it not working? Or are we just going to go along doing things because that's the way we've always done them? And so I guess that's me. I worked, always had 3 jobs. I joined the military, did some really, cool stuff in the military, got out, bought businesses, met my wife in the military, bought businesses and just continued to build business. And every step was just a stepping stone, it was, or maybe we could give this a crack, and maybe we could give that a crack. And, I found myself at one point, moving, starting a business, and needing to find $1 million for the fit out of equipment for this particular business. And I had 30K in terms of equity that I could tap into, and that was it. And everyone kept on saying to me, "Oh yeah, but you're going to borrow all this money. What if it fails?" I said, "Well, I'm not losing a whole lot. I'll just restart. I'll just keep going and keep going." But out of that, you kind of move from one area where you start something and for a vision, for a purpose, is like, I want to create this amazing life. And I think, what's really cool is what you guys are doing is there's a business element, and a lot of people get into a business to get this amazing lifestyle, but without the right tools, the business just becomes another anchor, and you end up, buying yourself a salary, which sometimes isn't the freedom that we think it should be. Yeah. So I was really invested into, I don't know everything. I need to know more. I need to be around people. And this never ending urge for growth. And it's not like, I had this thing where I'm like, I need to grow. I didn't work that out until years and years and years later. But I had this always looking, always got to be more, always got to be, I could do this better. I could find another way. And, look, even at a point where some might say I was really successful in business, I didn't think I was, because I was always looking for more. That's not always a good thing. Actually, for a lot of the clients that I've had over many years, that's actually a really bad thing.
I was going to say that too. Like we find, I see a lot of times, and I've been guilty of it myself. You get the shiny ball syndrome as a business owner, right? Especially if you're looking for opportunity. I don't know whether you found that as well, but I think to have goals and tethers to keep you sort of aligned, and that's where we'll talk probably later on, visualization really comes in. I shared this in an earlier podcast, and I think I think goals give us structure. And it gives us those lines, and like you said, we challenge rules, but I think the goals where they keep us tethered. What I spoke about in an earlier podcast, you probably remember this as well, Brandon. We spoke about, like, when it comes down to skill set and goals. So Paul, I'll share this with you. We spoke about like an archer, right? You get the world's best archer and we put them up against you. But we blindfold the art. Do you know what I mean? The world's greatest archer. So their skill set is second to none. There's no way your skill set will compare when it comes to archery. We put a blindfold on that person, spin them around, and we're like, just shoot when you're ready. So they actually have no real target. Whereas yourself, I give you the bow and arrow, and I'm like, well, there's your target. Try and hit it. Like, the chances of someone who has all the skills in the world but no target, as opposed to someone like, do you know what I mean, who may be new in business, they may be developing that skill set along the way, but we give them a target, they're a better chance of hitting it. And I think that's really good too. It probably aligns with like what you've said there is, when you can have all the skills, and unless we focus our energy, there's so many ways that it can go, right? Did you find that? Like, how do you stay tethered? Like, do you set goals?
Oh, absolutely. My life is one big goal. So, and that can be sometimes, that's sometimes hard, and not everybody's ready to do that. And, we've got a short time in this call today, but there's years of content, running through my head. There's a couple of things on that, goals are really important. Focus is really important. Discipline is really important as well. I think one of the biggest challenges that we have is, you talked about that nature of, being attracted to shiny things. And I definitely did that. And, sometimes we can get information which doesn't really work for us. And, everyone out there is talking, be an entrepreneur and have this and this and this and this and this, and I tried to do that. And, I wouldn't say I'm an entrepreneur as such. I'm a business guy. So I look at those things as quite different. And whilst I did it, whilst I successfully managed a lot of companies, I had a lot of companies. The key is that I don't think those companies were successful. They did okay, like none of them were bad, but they weren't of the magnitude that laser focus in this area, discipline, action taking, following a specific path, aligned goals, go get that. I think that's the difference. And that's what I've learned over the years is, I'm going to do this and have all of these things going on. And whilst I think there are other tools and resources to help you do that, I don't think everybody has the ability to do that. And I certainly didn't. I could keep, 8 companies or 10 companies afloat and making some money, but, knock it out of the park type stuff, make a huge impact type stuff. I had to dilute down to do that. I had to really dilute down. And that's what the last 5-6 years have been for me is getting rid of all the stuff I built up, because what I was told was you can manage that and you can manage that and come over here. And, it's like, I wanted to do everything and I wanted to help everyone and all that. And sometimes, sometimes that can be your undoing. And with businesses, it's not just businesses, what people do becomes their identity. It shouldn't be your identity. I always say, when it comes back to a goal setting, I say, like, point A is here and point B is here. So if you go into business for a reason, that reason is point B. Genuinely, is like, I want to get to here. And that as a part of a structure is this is the life that I want. This is how it looks. This is how I feel. This is the emotion. This is the feeling. This is the physical. This is the action. This is the outcome. And this is where I am now. So it's like driving, you know, like, do we drive to work? Yes. Do we sometimes worry about what that vehicle is? Yes. But it's just a transportation measure, because our goal in the morning or whenever it might be is to get from point A to point B. And our business should be the same way. We're using it as a vehicle. It's a tool. But what happens is our vehicle, because of the complexities of business or jobs, you know, suddenly it has this going on and that going on, and there's all of these things that happen, and your day gets up, and next thing you know, you're stressed, and I've got to fix this, and I've got to answer those emails. Yeah. And then, so what I've seen coaching many businesses over many years is the people get to the point where, you know, they might have wanted this wealth and I could have anything type lifestyle and money, but they can't actually take it, because that's their identity is now here. It's the things that I do. So they can never get out of their business, because then they feel lost. And I've actually coached a lot of people through that process where, like, well, so we've got to remember, you know, we can get to work or we can get from point A to point B any way we want. We've got to remember that it's just a vehicle. At some point, we might choose to upgrade the vehicle. That's cool, but just remember the purpose. If my purpose is to go for a Sunday drive and, you know, have the wind in my hair and the sound of a V8 and, you know, this awesome power and an awesome experience, then my vehicle is really important to me, because my vehicle is part of the outcome. It's part of that end identity. But most businesses aren't that. There's very few people out there who I think are fortunate enough to get up and every day do the shit that they love.
Yeah.
And that's where we've got to detach.
Yeah. And of course, like you mentioned, like, you know, business is a journey, right? And our business or whatever it may be is that vehicle. The same is true when we go on any journey, though. Like, there are so many distractions. Like we've spoken about them earlier. And I don't know if you've ever done this. I've done it. You jump on a phone call with clients and you just drive around aimlessly, but you're doing it because you're focusing on things. But when you have a point A and a point B, like you said, a journey to get there, we can measure ourselves. For example, just say we're going to do a road trip. We know that it should take us 4 hours to get from sort of this part of our journey to the next. If it's taken us 6 hours because we've stopped off, and we've got to be at our end destination by a certain point in time, it's this real good calibration measure. And I think that obviously people have different reasons to get into business and different motivators, right? For some people, it may be financial, others it's lifestyle, others it's a passion project. And I think to have an end goal or a destination or something to keep us tethered, you know, I mentioned that word before. I think a tether is so important. And I think that aligns with visualization as well, too, because we also, when we look at our vehicle, or that metaphorical vehicle, and the destination where we're going, like we need to have some idea of what it looks like, a bit like that target. And I don't know. So some people, you know, we talk to them and they'll put they might visualize a car. They may want a McLaren. For other people, it's that lifestyle. Others, it's the boat, the house, whatever it may be. This is the thing, though, is I think with visualization, just wanting it or picturing it is not enough. Like visualization, just without being backed by action, is just a dream, right? And it makes me think of like Jim Carrey. They were saying Jim Carrey, he wrote himself a check for like $10 million and he put it in his wallet and he said, I'm going to cash this in 5 years. And I think a week before the 5 years was up, he found out he was going to make $10 million on Dumb and Dumber. But the thing is just that wallet, that check in his wallet written to himself wouldn't have been enough. I think having, like we're saying, that idea and that visualization is designed so that when we get to this, crossroads where I can make a decision, to go out partying, or I can do this, or do I go in debt for that? Or do I use that capital in my business? I think the visualization and that tether is really designed to help us make the right choices to get to those goals sooner. Have you found that, like Brandon and Paul?
Yeah. Do you want to go, Brandon?
Oh, yeah. Look, I definitely think that it's just a struggle, like as you talk about that purpose for going into business, and I call it my why. For me, it's lifestyle. I got a lot of friends that, like Paul said, their business becomes their identity, and all they do is work themselves to the bone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They're always stressed. And that was me, like, up until recently, right? I had started this business because it was just like Paul, I just love business. I built one, I sold it, didn't quite know what I wanted to do, decided to do this because I really have a passion for electrical and went into it. But I was working myself into the ground, and I had some pretty negative things come up in July, and it was just like a massive blow, right? And I had this cross paths, like you said, and it was really like, okay, I need to strip it back down to basics, dilute it, as Paul says, and sort of figure out what aligns with my why. And so I was able to sort of navigate my way out of a situation that could have been catastrophic to my business through that. So yeah, sometimes I can. However, other times, you want to sleep in or take a day off or something like that because you're just tired, and sometimes that gets the better of me. But yeah, I think it's some of the more severe decisions I've made have been, thankfully, because I've been able to keep sight of that why, of the end goal, and really visualize that.
Yeah, and an end goal is really, really important for many, many reasons, but it's also interesting, right? So the way I look at it when we talk about goal setting, you got to remember that there's different types of people as well. There's a piece of literature out there, a learning tool. It's called The Levels of Consciousness. And what you've got to understand, something we can all relate to in this day and age is probably the movie The Matrix, right? So, the movie The Matrix is a bunch of people who are unaware, but they're happy, or they're sad, or they're whatever, but they're unaware. And that is every human being's choice. And I think what happens with goal setting is that we start slamming this, that everybody must have a goal. Now, not everybody wants a goal. And there's different personality types, and there's different personality people. So I think that's also important. But from a business perspective, the other way to look at this is that in 5 years, you're going to end up somewhere. So you may as well have some input into where that somewhere is, right? A goal setting is like being a ship on the ocean without a compass. You may as well have a destination, and you may as well have some control and influence over what that destination looks like. You've still got to enjoy the journey, right? It's never just about the end result. I think there's that level of consciousness which is important, understanding that not everybody's going to want that. Like I remember years and doing these events with Tony Robbins and all that sort of stuff, and people walk away and they're gonna change their family, and they're gonna fix their relationship, and they're gonna do this and do that, and they come out, it's like, well, who says that needs fixing? What if we're the broken ones? What I mean? So you got to respect what people want. But that being said, if you ever ask yourself, about there's got to be more, or if you ever look and go, here's my life, I want to make some changes, or here's my life, I'm not happy, or here's my business, I'm not happy with it, it's not going the way I want. Like if you ever have any of those questions, if you ever want more, which is perfectly okay to want more, because want more is about growing. It's not to overcome lack. There's human nature side, it's really, really important. So if you've ever got any of those things, then you should be looking at a visualization, a goal for a start. I mean, look, this is me, mate. This is visualization. This is me. This stuff follows. This is in my pocket, on my desk, in my car. Yeah. I've been doing this for 15 years, and I still do it now because it plays a big part of keeping me aligned. Personal development, goal setting, growth, all that sort of stuff. It's really just a big game of awareness. It's like, what's going on in my life, and can I be aware of it? If I'm having a shit day, I would rather have a shit day than a shit month. But a lot of people out there have a shit month because they're not aware that they're having a shit month. They don't ask questions. And when you've got a pinpoint, like as you said, when you've got a target to know where I want to go, it's pretty easy to go, am I off track? All you got to do is look at the damn thing and go, yes. And there's nothing better in life to correct a course than by looking at the use of your time and your finances. And not everybody likes to talk about finances, right? Everybody's like, oh, I never wanted a big, a flash car, or I never wanted a big house, or we got by without needing much money. Well, fine, you might have, but that's all bullshit. And that's a belief system. It really is. It's a belief system that's taught you that it's bad to have wealth. Because if you want to help people, if you want to have gratitude, if you want to, I'm doing this with my daughters now, who are talking about, money and all that sort of stuff. And it's about saying, it's not about never working. It's about having the choice. If you want to work at a cafe, both my daughters work at fast food restaurants. Doesn't matter how much money you got. They do it because they like it. They enjoy it. And you should never stop doing that. But you can also create wealth creation, because the way this world is going, you're going to need it, and you're going to need to be aware of the changes that are going to happen in our economy over the next 2 years, because they're going to be devastating for a lot of people. So the having a goal that's based around an outcome is really, really important. As if you're ever feeling like I want more, or I'm just not happy and I'm not sure what it is, that's okay. But you've got to have something that allows you to ask the questions. And that can be as simple as, am I where I want to be?
Yeah. And how often do you ask yourself that question too, right? Like, is it a daily basis? Is it subconsciously? Like, how do you measure? Because you mentioned like you keeping on course, and obviously the further I'll give you an example. We've all at some stage skipped a boat, right? And like on your GPS, it sets the course, but it also has where your course is, and you're talking to someone as you drive into the fishing spot, and all of a sudden you look back at the map, and this is the course, but we've done this, so we deviate back to course. And that journey, obviously, if it goes like this, takes a lot longer. So in that same scenario, if I'm talking instead of like for 2 minutes distracted, but I'm talking for 10, the distance, of course, is so much further. So the question is, how often do you calibrate? How often do you do that check and be like, okay, am I aligned with my goals?
Yeah, and the answer to that is as much as you have to. And the reason that is the answer, and look, if it's a personal question, for me, it's daily. Yeah. It's minimum twice daily, morning routine, evening routine. But if I've got stuff that's going on, sitting here, I might have to take a step back and take a 5-minute visualization or meditation, or I think, I'm just, a bit of thinking time. All right, well, hang on, what's going on there? What aren't I seeing? Just asking questions. That's all part of the process. And it's a part of the process to be aware of where I am and the way that I'm feeling. Because ultimately, if I set a goal for something here, I'm pretty confident that goal doesn't have me feeling stressed, shit, depressed, angry, upset, nervous, anxious. So if I'm feeling any of those things, I'm off track of where I need to be. You can't, you don't need to live there all the time. Someone asked me once, I went through this meditation process. I was never a meditator. I was just a visualizer. And I went through this really deep process and went away with this amazing guy who teaches that. And we spent a week meditating. And, by the time we got to the week, we were literally meditating 6 or 7 hours a day, and something I thought I would never do. And then somebody asked me that, okay, if I want to, if I'm going to start meditating, how often should I do it? How much is enough? And the answer to that was, well, how do you feel? How do you feel now? Well, I'm a little bit anxious, or I'm a little bit stressed. Okay, well, you need to meditate more. And it's the same thing with visualizing your goals. Goals, we talked about identity. Goals need to be a part of your life. They need to become your identity. And how I do that is that I associate different areas of my life to different categories, and those categories have colors. I've been doing this for so long that I can change my mood by looking at a color, because that color is associated to what these goals here represent. Yeah. And I already know, like Brandon said before, I already know the purpose, the why in that category of my life.
Do you find that's aligned with, like, obviously, like I will do that with, say, a task list where we're really channeling, and we'll touch on this in a later podcast, but like your dopamine and your reward centers as well. Like, obviously it's those rituals where I know if I do this, Because I think Jordan Belfort even speaks about the same thing. They do something with a pen and it just takes them back to this reward center, and probably not a good reward center, but like you said, you can do it with a color. I think that's really important. The thing is too, is obviously to be able to do that, you have to have been able to associate that with rewards in the past. And one thing I see with people who set goals, if you only set, I call them unicorn goals, right? They're your big long-term. They're the big birthers. You're like, it's the Gone in 60 Seconds, Nicolas Cage, Eleanor, right? That's your Eleanor, your unicorn. The thing is yes, they're achievable over time, but if they're the only goals you set, you're going to be disheartened along the way, without a doubt. So the need to set those smaller goals, the things that we can get a small reward for, and then doing those medium-term goals, which are that segue into staying on course to hit those unicorn goals or those Eleanors. Is that what you do, or?
I do a bit of both. So not specifically, I set smaller goals for certain categories of my life, but what I look at goal setting as like an athlete would look at training, right? So I look at a periodization program. So if I've never done any running before, and then we all agree here that in 12 months we're going to go run a marathon, we're going to go run 42 Ks. The first thing we do tomorrow is not try and run 42 Ks. So I need to break that down and go, all right, well, at what point do I need to be where? And tomorrow might be getting a pen and paper out and just as simple as writing what I need. I need a trainer, I need a pair of runners, I need some advice on that, and I need a running buddy. And that might be my first month's goal, is to get all of these things. So I work it back. So in certain things, particularly in business, I have big goals. I have unicorns. I'm probably not as good as setting unicorns as I want, because if you get those things, they clearly weren't unicorns, all right? So sometimes we're a little bit reluctant to go too big, but I set that and I work back, and then everything I do, I block down into a 90-day sequence. So I have 4 90-day blocks a year. And that for me, a month is obviously it's a 1/3 of a 90-day block. Now that 90-day block might not have me completing anything, because I might be working on something that is actually a 4-year project. So it's more of a progression tool. What's important is I have a measure. I have a measure of, am I on track? Because you're talking about, you've got to have that reward. Well, that reward isn't always a finished outcome. All right. If I've been putting shit into my head for 10 years and I'm 30 kilos overweight, my 90-day goal is not going to get me back to the weight that I need to be. But if I've dropped 5 kilos, I'm feeling better, and I've got a bit of a routine going, then that's a progression goal. And likewise, I should celebrate that. And that's where we fall apart, is that we don't celebrate the progress and the successes along the way, because it's what I used to do is, I'm not there yet. Like, I've done all of that, but I'm not there. And that got me into trouble. That got me into a lot of trouble with my mental state, because I never was grateful for anything. We built this amazing house, and people used to say to me, oh, wow, your house is amazing. I'm like, and I was just never grateful for anything, because I was not progressing. I was looking at outcome. I need, this with all these zeros on it. And I was very physical. I was very externally focused for a lot of years before I really started deep meditation and things like that.
Yeah. Do you find you can sometimes always chase that rabbit down the rabbit hole? Like this is, you mentioned before, right? Sometimes people find their place, this ultimate contentment, right? Like, and that's a big thing when it comes to, like, if you are a business owner and you set goals, a lot of times I've got to rein business owners back in and be like, you know what, the guy on the forklift or whoever he is who says to you, he only needs $1,200 a week so that he can go crabbing and fishing with his kids on the weekend, and that's all he needs, and a carton of beer, and he's the happiest guy there. Don't push him to be, something that he doesn't want to be. Like, you need those people in the business who just, they rock up to work, do their job, and they're really good. I think that's one thing I've had to channel is, as a business owner, Brent, I don't know if it's the same with you too, like, when we're always pursuing, like, it nearly gets to the stage, like you said, you got a big house, like you've got cars, and it's sort of like, when you buy the AMG and you're like, well, now I want the Lambo. You get the Lambo and it's like, well, now I want the McLaren. And you can actually find that, if you're constantly chasing, you never hit that happiness that you originally you originally just sort of aim for. Because I've done that. I've looked at my life and I was like, holy heck, like 10 years ago, if I had said during the house that I lived in, the cars that I owned, and I had seen myself back then, I would have been like, man. But then I look at where I am, and it's sort of like, I'm not grateful for what I've got. It's sort of like, oh but someone else has got more, right? And then, so I think I've got to do a lot of meditation, and that's, I think, the bad side of the setting goals is we understanding their purpose and being grateful for what we've got at that current time too. But also, do you know what I mean? I think it's I'm definitely will never not have goals, but I think sometimes appreciating it's important, right?
Yeah, and I think the key that you said there too, Jordy, is happiness. And it's interesting, right? So we talk about the energy, and what you were talking about before is NLP. So programming and visual aspect of programming. But there's also that part of the process. There's one thing that I learned out of meditation through Dr. Joe Dispenza, which has studied heavily quantum physics and how it all works, is a saying that, to achieve abundance, you first need to be abundant. And basically what, to fall in love, you first need to be loved. And that's generally where it's got to start. And what that is, it's a bit funny that's a long path to explain that, but it's the same with what you're just talking about. You want the cars, you want the, I worked for so many years to get all of these physical things because I made up bullshit reasons about why I wanted them, and no, I want to give the wife this and the kids that. Like it was always for me, mate. It was always for me. And now I've learned that it's okay to want those things, because I actually love those elements of physical. But now that I can have them, I find that I don't go out and get them because I don't need them, because I'm happy. Yeah, I could get it, but I don't need it. Like I'm actually happy. Whereas before I was chasing something and I was hollow. I was trying to bring those physical things in to fill a hole that I didn't have as a man because I thought it was something else. And so that's a really important part. So we haven't talked much about goal setting, but one thing you should always do is you should always ask more questions. And that question is, why do I want that? Or how do I feel? You always must tie back to emotion. So if you want $1 million, 100% $1 million is great, but why do you want it? How will it make you feel? What emotion will you experience? Because what you're trying to achieve to be happy is the emotion. Yeah. Okay. So if I want a Lamborghini, it's because I want how the Lamborghini might make me feel emotionally. And yes, it may make me feel successful or significant or whatever, but you have to work out the feeling emotionally, because then you can relate. And then it's just about, you can do that in a 2-minute visualization in the morning, and you can bring that feeling in, and you can already experience that without the physical element.
Absolutely. And if you're sad or not happy in yourself, then the thought of a car may make you temporarily feel better. But I know a lot of guys who have, they've a lot of wealthy guys who have a lot of toys. They're probably the saddest, loneliest guys I've ever met. There's no trust. Their friend circles are not there. The material things, unless you're exactly right, unless you are fundamentally happy and you have those, you've worked out those issues and you understand who you are, the material things is a high chance they don't fill that void. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And
no, that's really good. It's one of those things that's taking that step back, relating it to those emotions and how you're feeling, and how that then aligns with that why or that purpose and that. So that's really good, and we could go on for absolutely ever. We are running out of time though, so I think it's definitely something that we can definitely pick up again. Like, this was more of a visualization thing, but it'd be good to have you back on sometime, Paul, have a chat about that goal setting and a bit more specifically. So really thank you, Paul, for your time. I know you're a big guy, and it's been phenomenal having you on here, so thank you so much.
Thanks, Paul. Cheers, mate.
No, I loved it, guys. Thanks so much. It's good to have you.
Cheers, mate. And it's good to sort of hear how you set the goals and how regularly you sort of check in on them. So that's awesome. That's good, boys. Thanks for the chat.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much, guys.
Catch up next time, gents.
See you later.
Cheers.